Hello everyone, you are watching the Maria Cozette Show where the left brain meets the right. I interview accomplished professionals of diverse backgrounds to discuss how they exercise both sides of the brain, logic and creative. My guest today is a powerful estate planning attorney based out of New York and incidentally is also a fantastic cultural photographer. Antreas Hindoyan will be joining us shortly. For more information about the show, visit mariacozette.com/television. Stay with us. Hi everyone, you are tuned in to the Maria Cozette Show. I'm your host, Maria Cozette. I have a wonderful guest today, a powerful estate planning attorney based out of New York, Antreas Hindoyan, who also happens to be a fantastic cultural photographer. Hello and welcome.
Thank you for having me, old friend.
Of course, yes. So I must tell my viewers that I've known Antreas since he was 5. So we're no strangers to one another, but we never imagined we'd be here today. So.
We couldn't imagine at that
point. I love that you're here. Okay, so before getting into your creative side, please just go over, your work in law and kind of how that came about and all of that.
I'm an estate planning lawyer,
yes.
And that means a couple different things. We help families plan for their future. I'm not the kind of lawyer that goes to court and fights with people, luckily enough.
Of course you're not. You've always been a nice guy.
Thank you. I just couldn't imagine waking up in the morning knowing that my job was to fight with people.
Right.
But what we do is we help families kind of plan for their future. And that means financial planning for their healthcare costs. A lot of our clients are business owners, so we help them figure out what to do with their business for the long term, how they want to pass it on or sell it. And essentially, we just kind of help people get to where they want their goals to go.
That's awesome. You made it sound so simple, but there are a lot of intricacies in there, I'm sure. Okay, now let's move on to the fun stuff and talk about your photography. So what first sparked your interest and how were you drawn to photography?
It's a funny story. I was about 6 years old and my mom told us that she's pregnant. And I really wanted a little brother, but then she told us that we're having a little sister. And I threw a fit and acted like a spoiled brat because up until that point I ruled the roost in the house.
Right.
So a few months down the line, my sister was born, Nanor, and with Nanor came a camera, and my mom told us that that gift was from her.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah, so my little sister was both the person that got me into photography, and she was my first subject. And it was a period of time in my life where it was transformational for me and for our whole family, and I started capturing those moments.
That's amazing. Wow, very interesting. I love that. And so what are your favorite things to photograph? And, how are you drawn to that? And why do you gravitate towards certain things, rather than others?
I've always been drawn to interactions. It's interactions between either people or people and the environment around them. I did some wildlife photography for a while, so it was interactions with animals amongst each other as familial groups or as predators. I think that interactions can teach us quite a bit.
Absolutely.
First of all, in order to interact, you're bringing your own biases to a certain situation, and you're reflecting that other person's environment, that other person's biases that they come with. And I think that capturing that moment takes a lot of introspection yourself to see what you're looking for.
Right.
So it was kind of an opportunity for me to grow and to continue to learning by capturing these interactions that we have in life with each other.
Awesome.
And that's opened quite a few doors to travel places and see
that's
things.
what I was going to ask you exactly. So we're on the same page here. I know you've traveled quite a bit and a lot of amazing things that you've captured. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, yeah, initially when I began traveling for photography, what motivated me was to go and find differences in the world.
Right.
And that's a pretty common initial way of approaching things. What I would look for is how people do things differently in different locations. So I traveled a lot in South America, throughout Africa, and Europe.
Taking the roads less traveled. Yeah.
Always, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes the more dangerous roads. I can tell you a few of those stories. And so my eye would catch things that were different.
Right.
But then over the years, as I look through the photos and I just reminisce through those experiences, what I realized was that I wasn't capturing differences, actually. I was capturing what we do as humans regularly.
Interesting. So you were finding similarities.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think the differences were just in how we did those same things.
Right.
Human nature drives us to care for our families, and it drives us to strive for achievement. These are common throughout the world.
Right, that's so interesting. So you've learned a lot through your photography.
It's my way of growing. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. So in addition to photography, you also produce your own marketing videos, which is very rare. I have not met an attorney that does that. So how is that process?
Yeah, well, first of all, it came easy to me, and it's a nice way of balancing the right and left brain, actually.
Right.
I knew how to play with photos and videos, but what was key to me was watching all these boring videos and commercials that lawyers do. We all see it on afternoon television,
yes.
And they're not really genuine. And what I decided to focus on is imagery, because imagery is what connects us to concepts, connects us to how we perceive the world and how we want things to be.
Right.
So I focused on compelling images that tell a certain story. That's pretty much how I do it now, and it's a fun process. I spend part of my time working on marketing material at work,
right.
and part of my time helping my clients, and
I
it's a lot of fun.
You've set up a little studio at your office?
Yeah, my office is in the World Trade Center. We're up on the 85th floor.
I'm sure it's beautiful.
It's a natural studio,
yeah.
And there are amazing views and amazing backdrops, so I'm having a lot of fun with it.
I love it. Stay tuned. We have a lot more to talk about with Antreas Hindoyan. 7Q Spa Laser and Aesthetic Center has opened its doors to their new location in Glendale, a luxurious space offering cutting-edge technologies, including laser hair removal for men and women, all injectables and fillers, Botox, Restylane, Kybella, Juvederm Ultra Plus, and all other variations, PDO thread lift, PRP facial with mesotherapy and microneedling. Visit their new location, 7Q Spa Laser and Aesthetic Center. We're back on the Maria Cozette Show. My guest today is a wonderful attorney, estate planning to be exact, Antreas Hindoyan, who happens to be a fantastic photographer. We're talking about really cool stuff here, and I want to backtrack a little bit because I know you mentioned interactions, and through your observations in traveling for photography, do you have exciting stories you'd like to share with us?
So yes, photography can lead you down some amazing paths. There is one story that was kind of a game changer for me in talking about interactions. We were in the Serengeti National Reserve in Tanzania. It's a wildlife park. And just outside, right as you're about to go into the park, there's an elephant sanctuary.
Right.
Poachers are infamous in Africa for the ivory tusks that they hunt elephants for. And so there's a sanctuary where they nurse the orphan elephants that have lost their parents to poachers.
Oh my.
And we were there, and we were playing and shooting these baby elephants. And all of a sudden, a huge elephant came from the wilderness side up to the gates. And we were initially baffled because it was rare for a big elephant to come to this sanctuary. And the caretaker there was someone who had been there for about 40 years. And she told us that that elephant was an orphan when it was very young, and she had cared for it.
Right. Now,
this big adult elephant had brought its newborn baby that it had had in the wild, and essentially brought her own new baby to introduce to the
oh
caretaker
my
that had
goodness.
raised her. And elephants are very much like humans. Their social structures are very
Yes,
similar to humans.
absolutely. I was just recently reading about that actually, so it's funny that we're having this conversation.
And observing them is a really great way to reflect on what's important to us as humans.
Yeah.
You know, the way they care for each other, the memory that they have, and the appreciation that they show. And I think all of us can agree that these days some of that empathy is lacking
Yeah.
and nice to remember.
Yeah, oh, that's amazing. In a sense, you're like discovering so many things through your passion for photography. So I think it's actually very profound. I love it. Yeah.
The camera has always been the way that I take notes on my life, and what I learn is through that lens, and it's the best way that I know how to reflect and remember my own lessons.
Wow, amazing. So with that said, you know, some people think, and when I came up with the concept of this show, some people were skeptical, as always. You know, there are always naysayers, and they were like, Maria, like, what do you mean professionals that have creative sides? So I want to ask you, how has your creative side fed into you practicing law, or vice versa? How has one helped or nurtured the other?
Yeah, this idea of the left brain and right brain, it's kind of perfect for what I do, because I view photography as storytelling. A good photograph tells a story. And storytelling in the sense that you have to observe the world around you, understand it, and capture that at a certain moment. And when you're photographing, when you're out in the field photographing, you don't immediately begin just taking pictures. You spend a lot of time just watching and looking at
scoping out the scene.
Exactly. You absorb the vibe of where you are, and you also, through that process, make yourself a little bit invisible, and you remove yourself from the story that's being told. And then you look for the right moment to capture that. I described earlier what I specifically do, the kind of law that I practice, and what I think that I do for a living. I described it as estate planning, but what I'm really doing is capturing a family story. And the process that we go through when a client comes in is first to listen to them. And we listen to what their life story has been up until that point. I listen to what keeps them up at night. I listen to what is relevant to them. And the plan that we design is really capturing their past. It's capturing that very moment. And we're trying to paint a picture of where that family is going to go. So I think that with both my photography and with how I practice law, I'm still a storyteller. It's just that in one case I'm using a camera, and in the other case I'm using a pen.
It's great how they weave into one another like that. Yeah, it's perfect actually. And so with the digital age, and everything is digital, in fact this show is streaming online, do you develop any of your photos, and what are your thoughts about digital versus analog? Because I know a lot of, you know, filmmakers, anybody in video production, and then also photography, you know, they have preferences and their perspective on things. So what are yours?
I collect old cameras, so I'm
you
a bit of a
appreciate
tinkerer.
analog.
Yeah, I really do appreciate analog, and there's a specific reason for it too. First of all, I live in New York City now, so when I lived in Los Angeles, I had all the stuff to develop photos and everything, but my apartment's the size of a shoebox, as you can imagine. I live in lower Manhattan.
Everything's small in New York, I know.
So these days, I don't develop my own photos, but I still send out film photos to be developed. Shooting film requires you to be much more disciplined. And it forces you, because there are limitations. You have a roll of film that you've chosen. It's a certain kind of film that is going to be developed. Once you put it into the camera, you have a certain number of images that you can take with it. And it has certain characteristics. With a digital camera, you can just hold down the button and it'll take several photos in a second. And one of those may be fantastic. With film photography, though, you have to go back to the basics, and you have to understand composition. you have to anticipate the scenery before it happens, which
Interesting.
makes you, again, just observe your surroundings much more deeply, and you have to have an awareness.
Right.
So shooting film is sort of like my meditation, if you will. You have to be hyper aware of what's going on, and you have to really reflect and anticipate a certain moment and focus all of your talent and skills on setting that camera the right way to get that perfect shot, because you have very limited opportunities to do so.
Like our old school cameras, there's just one little row.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's expensive now
Interesting.
too. So
yeah,
you
I
better
know,
get it
right? I'm like, but I had this when I was little. Yeah, no, that's very interesting. And so I asked this question to all my guests: why do you think it's important to have a creative outlet?
You know, art is what makes us human. Thousands of years ago, when we developed the human brain as we know it, one of the things that set us apart from the other animals is our ability to convey wisdom to either the next generation or to the people that surround us. And that quickly became something that was put on walls and painted and carved into things. And really, that's where art truly developed. And if you really want to define what art is, it's a reflection on us and the life that we're living and where we are. Whether you create art or you consume it is somewhat irrelevant. The fact is, our brains are wired to demand both.
Right.
So if you have the inkling to create, go for it and learn more about it. It's a phenomenal time to create things. There are so many tools at our disposal if you have that creative push inside of you. If you don't have that talent, or you can't draw a straight line or whatever it is, go consume art in any form. It's really the way that you can take stock of where you are in life, learn much more about yourself, and really have empathy for those around you. It's a requirement. It's not a luxury.
Perfection, perfection, perfection. I don't want to let you go. And it was so great talking to you. Thank you so much for being here. Please stay with us. We have more. And once again, thank you so much to Antreas Hindoyan for sharing his creative side with us. So every now and then I like to visit 7Q Spa to treat myself, and today was one of those days. So let's check out a segment about a day well spent at the spa. Hi, how are you, Lilia?
Good, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. So I wanted to ask about the different types of fillers you offer here.
Like, of course, we offer here all type of fillers that are recommended from the company, approved by FDA.
Right.
That's number one. And of course, we choose the filler based on its concentration and the area the person wants to treat.
So that's interesting. It actually makes me think of what are the different types of fillers used for particular areas?
Based on its hyaluronic acid concentration.
Okay.
If it's more concentrated, of course, we want like it has to be deeper injection and give more definition.
I see.
Cheek augmentation, we use Voluma or wrestling lift. I use the same filler for jawline definition, because now it's become more popular, cheeks and jawlines.
Yeah.
And for nasal level, for wrestling offers the very nice product, wrestling define or refine, because it gives very natural look, and also it moves every time you do like facial expression.
I see. So the consistency has a lot to do with the area. I see. Thank you so much for taking the time today.
Pleasure.
So it's actually my first time doing laser. I have a couple of questions. Just give me like an overview of the process.
Sure. So laser hair removal, basically the laser will hit the follicles of your hair and it'll cause the hair to fall out and thin over time.
Okay.
So as you do consecutive treatments, you'll see a gradual decrease in hair growth, and some people, about 90% of their hair goes away, followed by some maintenance treatments once in a while.
Nice.
So yeah, it's a great alternative to like waxing or shaving because it's almost permanent.
So shall we begin?
Yes.
I'm ready.
I know.
So of course we live in sunny California, and while that has its benefits, it has its downsides because people don't protect themselves. I do, but some of my friends don't. So what can you do for pigmentation, sunspots?
Number one is sunscreen.
Yes,
if I can get that out there.
I know.
Sunscreen is number one. That's home care, that's maintaining that youthful look and evening out the skin tone. However, if there's somebody who has not been taking care of their skin in that manner, not applying sunscreen, we do have multiple treatments here depending on the severity of the pigmentation that my clients come in suffering from, whether it be melasma, which is also contributed to hormones and other factors, but sun damage, it's one of our number ones. So chemical peels are top on my line. It's one of my specialties. I love it. It's something that I've suffered from, the pigmentation. So it touches me, kind of close to the heart. So when somebody comes in and needing that, I'm happy to help them out. So I do different levels of chemical peels, whether it's low level all the way to MD, but there's something for everyone.
Right. Perfect. Thank you.
Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you too. Hi, Adriana.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. So I'm ready for my texture treatment.
Perfect.
I'm excited.
Excellent.
All right.
Please lie down.
Okay.
So for this machine, we have several head pieces. So we're gonna use the one for the arms.
Okay.
And this one, you're gonna feel like a warm massage. It's not anything
nice.
painful. Okay.
I like massages.
Yeah. Great. What we do, we cover yourself, and this machine just tightens the skin, and it's really good for the face too.
So does temperature have any side effects?
No, it doesn't have any side effects.
Okay. And then how fast do you see results?
3 to 6 months, depends on the area, and it's a once a month treatment for the face, and it only takes 5 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
And I know you guys are the only ones that have it here, so that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a great RF machine, and the results are very, very good. That's it.
Hope you enjoyed the segment. I know I did. I'm feeling very refreshed and revitalized. For any further information and to visit their beautiful location in Glendale, visit 7qspa.com. Stay with us for more of the Maria Cozette Show. The Art of Giving spotlights a nonprofit or charitable organization. And today we spotlight Birthright Armenia, a phenomenal organization that has grown and strengthened since its inception in 2003 by Adel Hovnanian, with the belief that it is every Armenian's birthright to not only see Armenia, but also experience their homeland via an enriching hands-on, life-changing experience. What an idea, and how it has evolved is so impressive. Birthright Armenia's mission is to strengthen ties between the homeland and diasporan youth by affording them an opportunity to be a part of Armenia's daily life and to contribute to Armenia's development through work, study, and volunteer experiences, all the while developing lifelong ties and a renewed sense of Armenian identity. I personally know many that have joined the movement and committed to its mission. The beauty of such organizations is that it is not only impactful in part of building a new Armenia, but what transpires within that time and commitment attributes to self-realization and personal growth. Birthright Armenia energizes and inspires our youth, and rightfully so, promotes the importance of investing in our homeland. Proud to spotlight them today. For more information, visit birthrightarmenia.org. This is the segment called Know the Greats, where we spotlight a legend. Salvador Dali was an infamous Spanish surrealist. His repertoire included films, sculptures, photography, and paintings. True to the behavior of many artists, Dali was highly eccentric and flamboyant. His older brother, who was also named Salvador, died at the age of 3, and when his parents took him to his brother's grave, Dali was told he was a reincarnated version of him. Dali believed this and embedded his brother's images into his paintings. In 1931, Dali painted one of his most famous works, The Persistence of Memory, which introduced a surrealistic image of soft, melting pocket watches. The general interpretation of the work is that the soft watches are a rejection of the assumption that time is rigid or deterministic. This idea is supported by other images in the work, such as the wide expanding landscape and other limp watches shown being devoured by ants. He was among the first artists to employ holography in an artistic manner. In Dali's later years, young artists such as Andy Warhol proclaimed him an important influence on pop art. At some point, Dali had a glass floor installed in a room near his studio. He made extensive use of it to study foreshortening, both from above and from below, incorporating dramatic perspectives of figures and objects into his paintings. Dali employed extensive symbolism in his work. For instance, the hallmark melting watches that first appear in The Persistence of Memory suggest Einstein's theory that time is relative and not fixed. A famous quote from Dali: "When you are a genius, you do not have the right to die, because we are necessary for the progress of humanity." That's a wrap for the Maria Cozette Show. Thank you so much for joining us. My guest today was Antreas Hindoyan, a powerful attorney from New York and also a fantastic cultural photographer. Thank you so much for sharing your adventures with us. For more information about the show, please visit mariacozette.com/television, like our Facebook page, follow me on Instagram. I want to hear from you. You can email me at info@mariacozette.com. Speaking of the magic of photography, everyone stay creative. I'm out.